Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction haunt entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And this week we come to you, hopefully with some alternatives, some ideas, some conceptualizations, that's the word I was going for, that might help you build your haunt less expensively. I won't say more cheaply, but less expensively. Because, as we're going to discuss in a little bit, the price of lumber is crazy, and we're not going to take it anymore. So we're looking at novel haunt builds this week, ways to save some money on your haunt. But definitely, if you have not done so before, take a moment, check out hauntweekly.com or Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, youtube.com/hauntweekly is the YouTube channel. You can also find us on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from. We're probably already there. Find us, download us, listen to us every week. We appreciate you spending time with us.
Yes, we do.
So, this week, what has been going on this week with us, real fast, as our usual housekeeping stuff? We've been working, if you're catching us in the live chat, you can see it here, or at least some of it here. We've been working on the Lego Haunted Mansion or Haunted House setup, and we have made quite a bit of progress.
Yes, we have jumped from 5 to 9.
No, 12.
12?
Aren't we at 12?
I don't know. I just remember your stupid joke about bag 9 for amount of space.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of what we were working.
Yes.
We did 9, 10, and 11 in that session, and we are now up to, we're going to start bag 12 next, I believe is next. So we finished bag 11 out of, I believe it's 18. And it's looking like a haunted house, honestly.
It's coming together.
I would like to note that this haunted house is ADA compliant.
Well, it has wheelchair access at the front.
Yes.
There are no walkways in it.
No walkways in it at all. So I guess it's hard to
yesterday.
not be wheelchair accessible if you don't have any walkways.
Yeah.
But more to the point, it has doors which open with a little turn knobby thingy, which is really, really cool. We have built what I believe to be most of the elevator shaft. And we have assembled the pipe organ. We can't see it. It's on the back side now. We'll have to get pictures of that into the Facebook chat or in the Facebook channel later. But yeah, we got a pipe organ. We got a whole bunch of great stuff with this. And so far, I'm basically agreeing with Japes when he told us that this is a great display, but not necessarily the best build.
Oh, and Ellie has ordered our next Lego.
So, yes, indeed, true.
So that is the other thing.
And once we finish this, we will continue with having Lego progress every week. The next one will be, we'll actually be working on the same thing, same kit, but on different projects. It'll be weird.
Yeah.
The three of us will be doing the same kit, but different projects, because we're going to be working on a pirate ship kit, which is also a pirate hideout, and what was the third one?
A bar.
A bar. So a pirate hideout and a pirate bar, all from the same set of Legos. That's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we'll all be working on different things at the same time. But right now, we're still working on the Haunted Mansion. We got about a third of it to go, so we still got a good way, a lot of progress we got to make. I've been really enjoying the Haunted Mansion, though. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes. Yes, it has.
Yeah. It's actually been really good. And even though the build is not the best and most simple...
Yes, we will not be saying that Lego is what you should build your walls out of, though, because that would be more expensive than lumber.
Considering it's $300 for what you see in front of you, plus 6 more bags worth. Yeah, it is. Do not build your wall out of Lego. It is more expensive than lumber. That's a great point. So yeah, that's what we've been working on. So please definitely continue catching up with us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Facebook.com/HauntWeekly. We do this podcast live. We'd love to have you here and show off the new set we're working on. So, on that note, everyone, the question of the week this week is one that's relevant to the topic, which is, like I said, novel haunt builds. We're going to be talking about it a little bit later. So, what is your favorite dumpster dive find? What is the favorite thing you have found in the trash, at the curb, in the dumpster, etc., etc., etc.? For me personally, it remains the vinyl siding.
Yeah.
Because I went on a run one morning, back when I was able to run, before my medical conditions prevented me from running. And I got halfway around our little court, and they had been doing some construction work or some renovation to the house around the way, and they had thrown out a crap ton of very good-sized vinyl siding. And so, literally, run canceled. I go and I drag, it was in 2 bundles, 2 very, very heavy bundles. And I dragged each heavy bundle back to the house, and we have used those in the haunt almost every year since. Mm-hmm. I think this year will be the first year we did not use it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's in here anywhere.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think we have finally stopped using it, but we used it for like 7 or 8 years there.
It's not that like we got rid of it either. It's not like it's
it's
not
still
coming
here.
back.
It's still here. In fact, that's one of the great things about vinyl siding is you can store it anywhere.
Yes, because it does not have to hold up to rain. Well, it can hold up to rain.
It holds up to rain
very
well. It can survive rain and weather and all that because it's kind of the point of vinyl siding.
Yeah.
What is your pick?
So, I think that's the most useful one that we've found.
Yeah, it probably is. In terms of like what we've gotten the most mileage out of, yeah, it's hard to get get anything bigger than about 300 pounds of vinyl siding.
Yeah. Now, if we still had it, and just because it was such a funny story, the darkroom door that we picked up would have been great in a haunted house, but it was funny because I was doing photography and it's like free. You know, it's going to the
darkroom
curb.
door. We're going curb. We're gonna bend this.
Yeah, exactly.
And we drove eons for this.
It was just across the river. It was not eons.
We crossed water. We drove eons.
Jesus Christ! It was like 10 minutes away. Maybe
You're not
15.
a New Orleanian if you believe that.
Yeah, but no, we got it home and it would not come into the door. It wouldn't fit. Because
it was a darkroom door that was designed to fit in doors larger than what our house had.
Yeah, larger than standard.
Well, no, I think the problem was our house was old.
Yeah.
And it did not have standard doors.
Yeah.
Because that was the house we had that was built, I believe, in the 1860s.
Right.
When people were like the Lollipop Guild. And these were giant doors for people back then, but they were not big doors to people. It
was too narrow was the problem.
Yeah. It was we couldn't even get it in the house.
No, so it sat in the backyard and
eventually got
sad.
bent, and it was sad. Another thing I would put in that same vein, we haven't done anything with it yet, but it was technically a dumpster find or a trash find, was the giant mirror frame.
Yes.
That you picked up. We saw it. We actually, because the house down the road was having a garage sale, and you saw it there at the garage sale. Mm-hmm. And you made an offer for it, and you just couldn't come to terms. So they wanted more than we could afford for it at that time. But she told us, hey, look, everything that's not sold here is going to the curb. Mm-hmm. Which basically convinced us not to buy it.
Yeah.
That was the nail in the coffin and actually spending money for it. And so sure enough, very next day, I think this was a Sunday, this happened, and that evening, or it was a Saturday, and Sundays when he put out, David put out trash, we saw it at the curb. We grabbed it and brought it home for free. So yeah, if you're holding a garage sale, don't tell people that items are going to be binned if they don't sell, because they will just simply scout the curb like we did.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, what is your favorite dumpster/curb/trash find? I'm eager to hear this. So yeah, definitely a lot of interesting things have been found curbside by haunters, and we all do the dumpster dive. Mm-hmm. Don't deny it. Don't hide it. Own it and enjoy it is my advice. Yeah. We'll come back and we'll look at some of the answers to those questions in just a little bit, because I see we had a few people already answering, and that is really cool. Mm-hmm. Everyone's in the spirit of the dumpster dive today, as you should be, because that's kind of the theme of the episode, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right. So to take us into the topic of the week, basically here's the thing, everyone. Lumber prices are still insane, and if anything, they're getting worse.
Yes, they are.
If they might have, I think they've been technically flat for the past like month or so, but like trickling upward as opposed to that fucking logarithmic going up insane amounts every week, right?
Right.
So yeah, basically right now lumber prices are still very much insane. Earlier this morning, rather, I should say, I checked our local Home Depot to see what their current prices were. Because I'm thinking like a consumer or a small haunter and looking to see what I would get if I went to the local home improvement store. Plywood sheathing right now, if you want 11 by 32nd, is $41.
Which is outrageous.
It's normally, I mean like years ago, like when we last bought it and paid money for it, it was closer to $15. It was between 15 and 20. If you want half inch, which is 15 by 32nd, it is $63. So if you're looking for heavier wood for stronger panels, you want to make a drop panel or something, it's $63 just for a sheet of plywood alone. If you want a regular old plain 2x4, not pressure treated, not stud wood, just a 2 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot piece of wood, it is $8. Technically, it's $7.96, but we don't fall for that crap on Haunt Weekly. That's $8.
Yeah.
That's $8. Deal with it, Home Depot. It's $8.
Yeah, and most of the numbers we're going to be throwing out this episode came from Home Depot.
Yeah. We looked at everything at Home Depot because we wanted to be realistic about the retail price. You might be able to get cheaper prices at a wholesaler, but I think you're going to find the retail markup on lumber is not that high, oddly enough. So, yeah. And what this means is if you were building a one-sided panel using 2x4s and the 11 by 32nd plywood, and you were making it one-sided, and you were putting a brace point in the middle. So the box and the brace, right? And you're putting a horizontal brace in the middle, which is our style personally. So that means you're using 3.5 2x4s and one piece of plywood for a skin. It is $69, giggity, for a single panel. Normally, that would cost about $25 to $30 for the entire panel. Because usually the plywood would be around $15. Plywood, it's the 2x4s would be about $2 to $4, somewhere in that range. And so when you add it up, it's between $25 and $30 usually. So it's well north of double the average price for a panel, at least in our history of building panels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's outrageous.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, and this is what stopped us from doing the intended haunt display last year because we were not able to open due to COVID, but we were still going to do a really kick-ass yard display.
Yeah.
We had it mapped out. We had a CAD design of it. We had a design of it. We had all this great stuff. We had a beautiful vision. We knew the exact amount of lumber we needed. And then we got to Home Depot, and it was just nuts pricing on all the lumber.
Right.
And we turned around and said, well, we got to rethink this.
Yeah. Basically, we were going to build a haunted house facade. Well, if you look in the back of the Lego, it's kind of going to look like that. Where it had the rooms with the skeletons acting out, the different scenes.
And it was going to be great and funny and quirky, and it was going to be a great... I thought it was going to be a great alternative to us being able to open. I was still sad we wouldn't be able to open, but at least this way we can provide something truly entertaining.
Yeah. And, it wound up being a good thing that we couldn't build that because, Zeta came and it would have been harder to take down.
Yeah, and we would have had to take it down, and it would have been really rough because, like I said, the design we had, it would have been panel-based. We would have been able to take it apart and put it in pieces, but it would have been much more work and much more difficult to store. Yeah. Where what we had... And it was bad enough with Zeta because what we ended up using was the Tinker Toy set, what we call the adult Tinker Toy set we have, which is basically one of those greenhouses you can buy, like Big Lots has them, and I think you can get them on Amazon too, where they assemble using metal piping. And we built with one of those, we built the 4 rooms. It wasn't nearly as impressive or as tall or as... sturdy, but we still got our 4 rooms. We were going to do 2 stories too, so we're going to do 6 rooms.
Right.
4 on the bottom, 2 on top. So we only got 4 of the rooms. But we ended up with something that at least could be taken down quickly and easily, because we did not realize how bad Zeta was
Right.
until like the day before or the day before it hit.
Or like last week.
You know,
Whenever they upgraded it, said, "Oh no, that wasn't a 2. That was really a 3."
Yeah, they recently came out and said, "Oh yeah, Hurricane Zeta, yeah, that storm we said was a Category 2, and it made no, we were wrong. It was a Category 3."
Mm-hmm.
They corrected themselves. Like that makes any goddamn difference after the fact. I appreciate you, National Hurricane Center, but feels kind of late for that conversation.
It does.
So yeah, this is really bad news for haunts, though. The haunt build season is picking up. In many places, it's in full swing, depending on how large your haunt is and when you normally build.
And if you finished last year, or you took the year off because you're
going to be closed, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's especially bad for smaller haunts, home haunts, and yard haunts. In many cases, especially with home haunters and yard haunters, their build budget is less than $1,000. And that's normally true for ours. Like the combined budget for everything we've done is significantly higher than $1,000. That's because of a lot of reusing and recycling. We have way more than $1,000 worth of stuff in our haunt, but that's been accumulated over the past 15 years, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for a lot of small haunts and yard haunts, the budget might be less than $1,000. And so what that means is that at current prices, if you were doing a panel-based construction and you were doing it exactly as we described way back when we talked about panel-based construction, you could only build 14 panels.
Yeah.
14. And that does not include any paint, any lighting, any screws to put them together, honestly. I just factored lumber. I didn't factor screws.
Yeah.
This assumes you have screws.
Yeah, this is just the
wood.
the lumber part, yeah.
Yeah. So you can only afford the lumber for 14 panels. And that assumes, like I said, you have everything else you need already. The lighting, the electrics, the paint, the screws.
Yeah, basically we're just talking about the walls.
Yeah. And just talking about the material to build the walls, not even everything you need to put them in place and secure them in place.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's not a lot. Realistically, I mean, if we were being realistic about that $1,000 budget, you probably could only build about 7 panels because the other half would have to go to the other materials you need.
Right. Yeah.
So and that's what I usually do when we set our budget, is I set aside half of it for the lumber that we need, and know that the other half is going to be materials we need to put it together and things like that.
I just realized you and I budget Halloween out differently.
Well, apparently, do I do it better or worse?
I don't know. It always works out, so it doesn't really matter.
No, but I just realized that we can't go over like 50% of our money for the materials in general. It's my rule. Yeah. Because I know there's going to be screws, brackets, unexpected expenses, things like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if your haunt is being hit by lumber prices, we may have some solutions for you. Now, a lot of these are going to be targeted at home and yard haunts and smaller haunts, especially rural haunts that maybe don't have the same issues, fire code compliance. Mm-hmm. But some of these will work at larger ones. In fact, we front loaded it so that a lot of these will work at larger haunts. Mm-hmm. But basically, the main goal is to reduce the amount of new lumber needed for any haunt build going right now.
Right.
And so to that end, we have a whole bunch of ideas. And then at the very end, we're going to do some general tips for reducing your lumber costs, wrap it up, talk about the dumpster finds, and bring it together. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's go.
We're planning the rest of the episode. Item 1, prop-based layout.
Which I could have sworn we did a whole episode on.
I think we did.
I couldn't find it.
Oh, you
just looked for it. I don't think we've actually done it.
Wait. We have talked about prop-based layout how many times and not actually done the goddamned episode on it?
Yes.
Well, good news, everyone. Next week's episode is planned. Fuck y'all. We got this. Because we definitely need to talk about that right now.
Yep.
So, next week, prop-based layout. Put in your calendars, folks.
We'll double check, but,
Yeah, I don't think I trust you, and I did not search for it. I meant to, but I didn't get around to it when I was doing the show notes. So yeah, definitely. If we have not done an episode on prop-based layout before, we have to do one now because now it's too important.
We've got confirmation in the chat.
Yeah, good God. Okay, so we're a bunch of ding-dongs. What else is news?
We talk about it a lot. But
We've talked about it so many episodes.
Said exactly.
Yeah, what it is and what it's about. So we'll go over some of the basics here.
Yeah.
The basic idea. Be clear, we're big fans of this idea.
Right.
When we've seen it in haunts, we always pop a little bit. But the basic idea is you build much bigger rooms than you would. The basic structure of most haunted attractions right now is you use your walls to carve a fairly constrained path in the haunt.
Right.
So that way you take, say your 2,000 square foot haunt. We'll just do a round number here. And you give it a ultra lengthy snaking path through it. Through all these rooms, through all these things. And part of that is you use very small rooms. The average room in a haunted attraction is around 200 square feet or a little bit smaller even. We actually go smaller than 200 square feet with our rooms because we're such a small haunt. We do closer to 125 or 100 square feet. But basically you have, instead of doing these super small rooms and using walls to separate them, what you do is you do big rooms around 600 square feet or even larger in some cases. I've seen it done with much bigger rooms than that.
Yeah, and this is obviously if you've got the space for this.
Yeah, this is a space thing. This is a great way if you've got a lot of space but don't want to spend all the money on the wood for the walls to divide it up type thing. But you use props, not walls, to carve your walking path. Instead of using walls to encourage people to turn left, right, and snake around, you place props in their way. You lay gurneys down, bookshelves.
Yeah, and we've seen this done with great effect with the bookshelves at Rise, actually, locally.
Yeah, Rise has done it. Also, Rise was the one that used both the gurneys and the laboratory. They used lab cabinets. And they also use, like Rise is one of my favorites in terms of switching between traditional layout and prop-based layout.
Yeah.
Because they'll have rooms that take the more traditional approach, and small rooms, constrained by the walls. And then you'll go into a much more open space where you're blocked not by a wall, but by a gurney and a medical cabinet, a shelving unit, as you know, like the library sequence there. And you have to snake around those things. And the idea is you can use props to both block line of sight, but more importantly, to alter the walking path of the customer so they have to spend an adequate amount of time in that room. And Rise also has the kitchen table sequence where the chandelier falls on the kitchen table and you go around. In fact, that one you have to go all the way around, like do a 3/4 walk around that table.
Right.
They're really masters of the prop-based layout, and it's one of the things I really love about Rise. And this requires more props, more stuff, to be clear. But it requires so much less lumber.
Yeah.
Because instead of building, say, 3 or 4 rooms with walls and everything else, you're building one room and just putting a bunch of crap in it and having people walk around the crap.
Exactly.
It's easy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. A lot of people in the haunt industry have hoarder tendencies. This is a good use for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And so. This the first thing it does, really, to me, is it creates room variety. And we're going back to Rise. They have it so that you'll go from very claustrophobic tiny room or a series of tiny rooms. You'll go from there into this bigger, more open room, like the Mad Scientist lab they had, where it's much more open. And so you feel the bigger space around you, but yet you still have the same walking path and the same delay going through the room. Because I've also seen haunts that didn't do this right at all, and they'll have these big, huge open rooms, and the entrance and the exit are just a straight shot to each other.
Yeah, and it's like they expected customers to walk around the stuff that they put in the room.
Explore the space.
Yeah. It's not open world.
No, people do not do that.
Yeah.
And so, and then I've seen haunts that do that, and that's frustrating. So basically, have the open space, but use props to block customers and prevent them from walking straight from A to B and give them the lengthy walking path you want them to have in that room without the need to build lots of excess walls. We've seen it done very, very well. It creates room variety, and it sets up very inventive scares because now you've got a bunch of props in the room that are hopefully durable.
Yes.
And actors can play with them. They can jump on them in some cases. They can bang on them. They can reach through them. They can do all kinds of things with these props they can't do with just a wall.
Well, and it also gives actors a lot of different spots so that if, they get tired of working one spot, they can go and work a different
Or
one.
one's not working for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the best laid plans of mice and haunter
Yeah.
will often go astray. So yeah, it sets up a lot of inventive scares, and it makes a room very flexible, as Crystal noted. So there's a lot of great things about the issues and drawbacks. We're going to be honest and do the issues and drawbacks of each one of these, by the way.
Right.
Issues and drawbacks, it's much more difficult to space groups.
Yeah.
Because when you have groups entering a bigger space, you have to make sure that it's just one group in that big space at a time. Mm-hmm. So you have to focus on how to space those groups out. It's also more difficult to hide actors. If you want actors to do pop-outs or scares, you have to figure out how you're going to hide them or keep them out of the line of sight. And they can be very hard on the props. Mm-hmm. If you happen to build, like we did, a particle board table, and having an actor hit on it. And then that actor is a big muscly man who literally hacks clean through it in the first night.
With a rubber mallet.
With a rubber knife. Yeah, it was a rubber knife.
Yeah.
He beat it and straight clean through it. It was impressive. Mm-hmm. So yeah, things like that. You have to be thinking of that. Item number 2.
Drywall. So,
yeah. This one seems obvious, doesn't it?
A little bit. Drywall prices are flat right now. They are $11.50.
For a half-inch drywall, yeah.
Yeah, for half-inch. Didn't put the dimensions of the actual pieces on
It's
here.
4 foot by 8 foot. It's the same.
Okay. Easier to work with, more fireproofing. Comes with it built in. And sound dampening.
In addition to fireproofing, you can get mold resistant.
Yeah.
Which for a little bit more, that I believe was $18 per sheet. That's still less than half of a fucking piece of plywood.
That's what we would need here.
That's less than half of a fucking sheet of plywood still.
Yep.
And it's mold resistant and fire resistant now, just saying.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. Sound dampening, easy to repair, easy to install and work with.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because haunts do not work with drywall in general.
Right.
And this is something I've noticed across the board is very few haunts build with drywall. And the main reasons are the issues and drawbacks. Mm-hmm. The big one is that it's so much easier to damage.
It is. Like if you've got a customer who kicks it, their foot might go
or it
through
crashes into it. I mean, it could be some actor scares them and they collapse into it and hit it with their elbow.
Yeah.
As they're going down, you're going to get a hole in your drywall.
Yeah, so this is not for walls that are going to be close to customers, basically.
No, drywall is so much easier to damage. It's also heavier.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and that means not just that when you're building your panels, it's going to be heavier. When you're moving and arranging your panels, it's going to be heavier.
Yeah, so it's not a one-person job, which panels right now can be.
Yeah, if you build a panel lightly, especially if you don't use 2x4s, it's possible to sling panels by yourself. If you build a drywall panel, good luck. And the last item it has is that it still requires lumber studs in general. So you're still going to have some of those lumber costs, though you can get metal studs, which, as we talked about earlier, actually are cheaper than wooden studs right now.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe I'm saying those words out loud. That a metal framing kit, the kind they use in like offices, is currently cheaper than a 2x4 framing for the behind a wall. That is nuts, but it's true, and you can definitely get metal studs and metal framing behind drywall, and it will hold up, and it will be cheaper right now because A, the drywall is cheaper, and B, the metal is cheaper too, because that's how crazy lumber prices are.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely nuts in my book. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason haunts don't work so much with drywall mostly is the weight factor. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I've heard the most, at least. Tell me your reasons. HauntWeekly.com, HauntWeekly on Twitter, etc., etc., etc. I'd love to hear why you chose plywood, or if you chose drywall, why you chose drywall over plywood. But typically when I talk to haunt owners and why they choose plywood over drywall, a lot of haunts started out doing drywall, but moved to plywood because of the weight issue. Mm. And also, previously, the cost issue.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever talked to someone who tried drywall.
There was a great article in Haunted Attraction magazine, one we actually broke down in one episode eons ago. They interviewed, I believe it was, God dang it, the haunt in Detroit. Help me out, Crystal. The big haunt in Detroit, the largest haunt.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, the one we covered the shooting at.
Erebus?
Erebus, thank you. The owner of Erebus was interviewed. Jesus, Murphy. I drew a blank, and apparently Crystal did too. But no, Erebus talked about how they went from drywall to plywood in that article. And one thing they said was the weight and the expensive and the constant need to repair it was the problem, because drywall does not apparently survive being moved and repositioned as well as plywood, which that makes a lot of sense because drywall is super fragile. Super fragile casual. No. No, but it is definitely more fragile than plywood. And historically, it's been about the same price between the two. So haunters have chosen drywall, but it may be time to take a second look at, have chosen plywood, but now it might be time to take a second look at drywall. Just saying. Item number 3, scrap and pallets. There's never been a better time to go dumpster diving, ever. Going back to the question of the week, now is like peak dumpster diving time in general. Like,
yeah, at my work, there's a giant dumpster full of metal pipes right now, like from a jungle gym or something.
And why the fuck is that not in our house?
I get in trouble for bringing stuff home without, a use in mind.
First. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Because we are definitely low on storage space. That's fair enough. But here's the thing: scrap lumber, plywood, siding, etc., can build a great haunt. What I would do personally is I would go into areas where there is new construction taking place. Like for us, I would go to that development near Algiers Point that sprang up, and they're still building lots of houses and things. But find where there's new construction going on and see if you can find what they're just basically leaving at the curb.
Yeah.
Because I'm always amazed at how much waste product there is from a new construction. Like everyone talks about how efficient new construction is and how very little gets wasted from it and all that. That's not been my experience at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen an empty one of those big dumpster things outside of a new construction house.
Yeah, you can definitely do a lot of good work going dumpster diving near a construction site, especially a home construction site where they're going to have the insulation, the lumber, all that stuff that you might need or want. You can get a lot of great stuff there. Another alternative, though, is pallets. Pallets are still available. Stores are still using them, and the price for pallets have not gone up, apparently, from what I've heard. It's basically lumber for construction lumber is what has shot way up here. So the price for pallets has not, and so stores are still allowing people to take pallets if they were previously. A lot of stores never allowed you to take pallets. But the stores that did let you probably still are. So there's a lot of great potential there to grab pallets for using construction, either to use the raw wood or more realistically to use the pallets themselves. Yeah,
we've seen some pallet walls and they look pretty good. Just make sure that you get all the sharp edges off and
Yeah, and that's just it. Like the issues and drawbacks with this approach are that it requires a lot more labor to assemble. Like I recently, not that long ago, I shouldn't say recently, it was years ago now, I'm getting old, but everything feels recent to me. But I brought home a bunch of pallets, and even though I looked at them and thought they were the same size and design and they would just fit together perfectly, they were not.
Nope.
Now, we were looking to use these in the yard display, luckily, so it wasn't a huge deal. But yeah, it took a lot of work, a lot of bracketing, and a lot of creativity to make those work in the way we wanted.
Yeah.
So it's going to require more labor. Your supplies will dictate your design. What you are able to grab will dictate what you can do completely rather than the other way around. And as she noted, safety becomes a concern. You've got to get those sharp edges, those stuck out nails. You got to grind all that down, hammer it in, do what you got to do. So be very, very careful when using any scrap material in your haunt that it is safe for both actor and customer. But yeah, and this is especially good, by the way. The pallets are especially good for outdoor haunts.
Right.
Because most pallets are outdoor treated and ready, and they can be used in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I know, we know haunters that literally build outdoor pallet mazes as their haunt.
Yeah, exactly. And just put some decorations on it.
It can work, and it can work well. You just have to be willing to put the effort in into making it happen. Because, like I said, those pallets are not going to cooperate.
Right. And they're an odd size to work with.
Yeah, they're not. They're like 2.5 foot by 2.5 foot, I believe, or something, or 3 foot by 3 foot, or something in that range.
Yeah, there's a lumber yard near my work that throws away 8-foot pallets.
Well, nice.
Yeah, exactly. If we had a truck, I could get it home. But
8-foot pallet sounds great.
yeah, it's like free pallets, and there's always a stack at the beginning of the week on
I have never
delivery day.
even laid eyes on an 8-foot pallet. I don't think. So.
Yeah. Well, they may not be doing it anymore because of the prices of lumber.
Yeah, they may not be, but no, I mean, an 8-foot pallet would be a dream because you could use that as a wall.
Exactly.
Now you got a wall.
Exactly.
That's neato.
Yeah. They do exist. Look at lumber supply places.
And that makes sense. They would have 8-foot pallets because they have 8-foot boards and pallets of 8-foot boards. So it makes perfectly good goddamn sense when you think about it out loud that they would have it.
Yep.
All right, next item.
Next item.
You want me to take it?
The non-build.
Yes.
No, the chat's really interesting. If you're listening to us, go and check out the chat. Because there's some good questions coming up in there. All right, the non-build. If you have a haunt, don't do a build. It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was your favorite one to add in.
Yeah.
Change the room by redecorating it, by lighting it differently, moving the props around. We've talked about doing this before.
Yeah.
How you can change the entire feel of a room with just a few tweaks.
Yeah. And like to give an example of this, if I wanted to set up like a child's bedroom in a haunt, and there's a lot of reasons you want, maybe like an exorcism scene or something, I'd have it where you walk in, there's the bedroom, maybe it'd have some decorative, childlike touches, but I'd use like pastel lighting probably.
Yeah.
Probably pink lighting, honestly, because that's what you most associate it with. Keep it very, very dim. Maybe sprinkle a few toys around or something to give the vibe. Okay, fine. Next year, it can be an adult bedroom without changing much of a goddamn thing. You remove those decorative touches.
Yeah.
You change the lighting to more brutal. Maybe you get like a flicker bulb. Maybe add a table lamp in or something like that.
Yeah.
And you add maybe like a one of those wallpaper stripes down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, it's an adult bedroom.
Yeah.
It's a completely different room, and you didn't remove a single prop.
Yeah.
And that takes no lumber.
And you didn't build any new walls.
No new walls, no new props were built. Mm-hmm. Some painting was done, some decoration was done, and most importantly, your lighting was changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really, really great. And like I said, one of the best things we've ever purchased for our haunt has been those color-changing LEDs.
Yeah.
I'd recommend getting better ones than we did. Like higher-end ones, because we definitely cheaped out on those. But color-changing LEDs make it so that you can trivially move the lighting. Mm-hmm. You can, like if you use clamp lighting especially, you take it from A to B and whatever and move it. And you can change the color, intensity, and the temperature of the lighting instantly.
Yeah.
And the result of that is you can alter the feeling of a room on the fly. You can do it in the middle of a show. You can do it between groups. It's just an amazing feeling of power to be able to completely change a room in about 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So my advice right now is if the price of lumber is a serious issue, maybe this isn't the year you add new rooms or you do the big tear down and rebuild.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the year you change the lighting and redecorate and repaint rooms. Because we've kept the same rough layout for several years now, but we've made it a point to go through and touch every panel. And by rearranging where the props are, we can change the entire flow of things too.
Yeah.
So between those two things, we get a completely different feel of a haunt without much of a build. So the non-build, I think, is one of the most powerful solutions here. If you've got an existing haunt, don't rebuild it. Don't do tear down. Don't do rebuild right now. Just make sure you go through and touch every panel.
Yeah, and also, if you were closed for 2020, Customers have short memories.
Yeah.
They may not remember.
Especially in 2020.
Yeah, they may not remember what your 2019 haunt looked like.
Yeah.
So
Or they might have vague memories and not much else.
Yeah,
They're not going to
change
remember a lot
where
of
the
details.
scare comes from and
Yeah.
run with it.
Yeah, you can run nearly the exact same show you did 2 years ago and probably be mostly fine.
And I think people would, understand if a lot didn't change because last year was not easy on anybody.
No, and honestly, and this is now getting into the hypotheticals. I think some people might appreciate it not changing much because they're looking for something that a comfort, familiarity. They're looking for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's possible.
Because I know that during the pandemic, I was rewatching a lot of my favorite movies and doing the things that were like my creature comforts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be that way for haunt customers. Now, the issues and drawbacks are that some will remember and object.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be helped. Some people seem to have absolutely amazing memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know who, like every year we have customers come through ours who I swear to God, our previous haunts are burned in their memory. Like it's the only thing they did in the past year.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. But they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't there last year. Then they can go through and they can spot every fucking change we did. And I just want to go, how? I don't remember my haunt that well. just how? Your actors, especially if they were open last year, may want to be doing something else. They may want more variety. And it puts more pressure on you in 2022. So if lumber prices don't drop in 2022, which hopefully they will, but if they don't, you may find yourself in exactly the same boat, but without, being able to really just do the same show again.
Right.
Okay, next up, PVC frames. Now, I want to be very clear about this. This is not suitable for fire code. Fire code requires solid walls. What I'm about to describe is not a solid wall.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that you can often do outside in trail haunts or in a front yard walkthrough, etc., etc., etc. Use PVC or conduit pipe frames and drape fabric across it. Now, one of the things that you had an excellent idea of was get hotel curtains.
Right, because hotel curtains have to be fire code compliant. And they're really heavy.
Yeah.
So,
and we're talking about the kind they use in conference centers to divide rooms and those
or
things.
in just hotel rooms.
Oh, that's
too.
right. I guess they do use them in the rooms. They'll
Yeah.
do black out those windows.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can go to an excess supply place, hotel supply, and look at what their options are,
Yeah.
Find something that works for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things you can do there, but drape fabric, if you're really going low budget, you can use trash bags or tarp. That's how I got started haunting, honestly, was exactly this way, trash bags and tarps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is going back to porch haunting with my dad in middle school, but
No.
it's surprisingly effective. You can build an effective haunt that way. You can't build a fire code compliant one that way.
Yeah. Well, and we use the to build our little scene in the front yard.
Yeah.
We use the
Weed blocker.
weed blocker, the
Yeah.
black weed blocker. If you fold it over and sew it, you're able to sew
Yeah,
it.
the 4 mil,
Yeah.
and not even have to sew much. You can safety pin, honestly.
Yeah, you can safety pin, but I prefer to sew it because it's less likely to get torn off in the wind if it's outside.
Which turned out to be an issue during Zeta.
Mm-hmm.
Because thank you, Zeta, for ruining 2020 haunt season. Even worse than it was already ruined.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never fucking forgive you.
Yeah, but instead of, if you don't know how to sew or don't have a sewing machine,
Yeah.
you can get the no-sew strips
Yeah.
and just lay that down, and that would make it really super
And it's almost like
fast
gluing
and
at that
easy.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be better than safety pins.
I agree. But yeah, there are multiple ways you can secure it. The great thing about this is it lets actors have a lot of fun because it's easy to reach through and play through this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really fast and cheap way to build, especially a yard walkthrough.
Yeah.
The issues and drawback, obviously it's not going to be useful indoors or anywhere where fire code matters. We try to build a fire code compliance even though we're not held to it.
Right.
So we would never do this in our haunt. It can be easily destroyed. If you're scaring people hard, expect ripped fabric. The very first year we did anything, 2005, when we did the first Bernie Baxter, we were using tarp, and it got the shit ripped out of it.
Yep. Someone got too scared.
It only made it one night.
It only had to, but it only did.
Yeah. Luckily, we were just doing Halloween night that year, but yeah, it made it one night, only barely.
Yep.
So it's easily destroyed, and it cannot be reused. We said in the notes it can't really be reused. No, it just cannot be reused.
Yeah.
Let's change that tone.
Okay. So, alternative wall ideas. One, lockers. So, on our Facebook Marketplace, I've seen lockers come up that are, either cheap or free.
Yeah.
Like there's old schools that are being revamped or something. They'll just trash all of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye open because I know Edna Carr's school down the road from us
Right.
is they built the new Edna Carr school.
Yeah.
And it's way that way. It's a beautiful school. Oh my God, it's a gorgeous school.
Yeah.
It's going to be great when it opens, ideally next year.
I think it is open.
Well, I mean, they didn't open because of the pandemic, though. They were supposed to open last year, but they didn't do in-person learning at it.
Okay.
So it'll be open with students next year, hopefully. But the problem with it is that the old Edna Carr, we've been trying to keep our ear to the ground, hoping they'll get rid of those lockers.
Yeah.
Because they still have them in the building. And we know this because we vote there.
Yep.
That is our polling place. So the 18,000 times per year we vote in New Orleans, we're in there and still see the lockers.
Yep.
So we're waiting for them to bend the lockers or to put them on Facebook Marketplace or to sell them or whatever to see what they're going to do with them. Because even if we don't get the whole thing up, all of them, we don't need a whole high school's worth. But even just a few. Ellie's talking about opening a craft shop or storage lockers for craft projects.
Right.
Might be good.
Exactly.
We could use them in the haunt. There's a lot of potential use for these for us.
Well, yeah, because they would be loud to bang on with something. Or just bang them shut. Yeah. It'd be really cool to make it to where, make a locker to where it looks like it's a bunch of lockers, but it's really just one door and the actors inside.
Yeah.
And just, the whole thing comes open.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with lockers, and I'm still sad I have not heard about the old Edna Carr getting rid of their lockers.
Maybe we can find somebody in contact. But anyway.
Anyway, moving on.
So we have built cages and wall structures using fencing materials. So steel welded wire right now is 4 foot by 100 foot roll for $82.
Which compare that to $63 for a 4 foot wide piece of plywood.
Yeah, 4 by 8.
4 by 8 section
instead
of
of 4 by 100.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's $30 more than a sheet of plywood, but you get a lot of feet extra. So
you get 92 feet extra.
Yeah. So this is sharp to work with. You do need very good wire cutters because your hands will cramp from cutting this stuff. There's probably a saw to do it too. But we used wire cutters when we used it. Make sure to either grind down the edges or baby proof them. There are baby proofing. I love looking at baby proofing stuff. We've edged some of our corners on our bar that we built with it, and it's just a little rubber thing. So if you run into it, it's not going to hurt you, but it would also cover any sharp edges that are left on there. Orange plastic fencing, 4 foot by 100 foot, is $32. That doesn't have the problem of hurting your hands when you're cutting it all the time, and or being sharp after it's cut.
We've used this in the queue line to create the cattle gate system.
Yeah.
Before it's not really useful if you want a solid wall.
Right.
It's going to be a very soft wall, but it's not a bad idea, especially if you're looking for something to just cattle gate people a direction.
Yeah, or an outdoor maze type thing. Or just a place for an actor to play inside of.
Yeah.
It could just be that. Black wire backed silt fence is $50 for 3 foot by 100 foot. I might have gotten, a kick out of looking at all the different ways to build
Yeah, fencing.
fencing.
Yeah, this is this the black? No, this is not. Go ahead. I'm getting ahead of you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no. The black plastic multi-purpose deer net
Is what I'm thinking of.
is 7 foot by 100 foot, and it's $54. So if you're building an outdoor blackout maze, this might actually work if you're in a field away from lights.
And one of the great advantages of this is because what it does is it puts a fabric sheeting over one side of the fencing. You make sure that side's facing the customer.
Right.
There go your sharp edges. There go your problems with pokey bits.
Yep.
You just saved yourself a ton of time. Because one of the things you can do with this wire meshing is throw some weed blocker, throw some kind of fabric over it. So that not only that it becomes more solid visually, if not reality, but visually it does. And it becomes less sharp if anyone does hit it. There's that fabric padding there. This way, if you get this particular stuff, the black plastic multi-purpose deer net, it comes that way. You don't have to do anything. And honestly, it's not that much more than just the mesh netting itself.
Yeah. And once again, these are all,
from our local Home Depot.
Yeah, and not necessarily fire code compliant. Like the metal things by themselves probably are.
Yeah.
But once you put stuff on it, you got to look at it a little bit closer. One of the things that we have used, other than the vinyl siding, like you had mentioned, which I didn't pull the price on that, is corrugated roofing sheets. They sell metal for $19, 26 inches by 8 foot, which is not bad. And we've used the plastic ones to make walls, and they take paint great.
Yeah.
So spray paint, just spray them. They can look like metal if you want to. And they're $22 for an 8 foot.
Especially if you get the metallic spray paint.
Yeah.
Because that shit is just amazing, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it other than amazing, because we need to get more of that. That's just super useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one thing I would add is if you can get doors as scrap, this is a great scrap find. They can be used as walls. Haunting You, we were just on a podcast with them. Don't know when that's going out, but we were just on a big podcast with all the haunty peoples.
Yeah.
And Haunting You was there. They just posted that they found something like 16 doors as a scrap find, and they're going to use it. That's a great idea to build walls out of, and it's creepy as fuck.
It is. And the Restore store has doors for like $10 or $15 a piece, or at least they did last time we checked. So I love the door idea.
Yeah, the door idea, though, and I saw that. It's like, oh, we've got to add that to the notes somewhere.
Yeah.
The main issue with this is that none of this is fire code compliant. You're not going to be able to do this in a pro haunt that has a fire marshal looking over it. I'm sorry. It's mostly going to be useful in outdoor situations where fire code compliance is not as important. And the aesthetic can be limiting because you're dealing with mesh netting and there's only so much decoration you can do now.
Right.
With a piece of plywood or a sheet of drywall, your decoration possibilities are pretty much unlimited. But with mesh netting, it's going to look like mesh netting no matter what.
Right. Exactly. But that could go with what you're doing. Depends on what your theme is.
Well, wrapping things up, we have some general tips for reducing lumber costs. The first item I would say is to reduce and reuse. This is the big one. Basically, don't throw any remotely usable lumber away. If you have not been building with screws, why the hell not? Because screws make lumber reusable.
Right, and make sure that you put a washer on your screw so it's easier to pull back out and you don't countersink it.
Yeah, I don't remember who taught us the washer on the screw trick. I think it was Garage of Evil, maybe?
No, it was one of the videos.
There's a video we saw, and ever since then, every screw's had a washer.
Yep.
Just because that makes it so easy to take apart panels, taking apart either in separating the panels or taking apart as in reclaiming the lumber from a panel. You're taking them apart, reuse the lumber, reuse everything, and basically it's so great because when you have the washer on the screw, everything comes out just the way you put it in. With no breakage, no stripping, nothing like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any tomfoolery to make that board usable again. So, and well-built stuff can be reused for decades. We have panels in this haunt we built over 10 years ago.
Right.
Literally. Next item, change your vision. Be flexible with your vision. This might not be the year for that big 3-story facade.
Right.
You can avoid a lot of costs by being flexible with your vision and story. I mean, we have done it where we have literally written stories and themed haunts around the props and things we had. One year we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of spider-related props. So we built a story around a spider queen type thing.
Yeah.
It worked pretty well, and it got a lot of good reactions. So being flexible, not getting too set in your ways, that can help you a lot. Just remember, the story and theme are guided by your build. They guide each other. It's a back and forth thing. You have to change the story and the theme as the build goes along, and you have to change the build to the story and theme. You've got to have a little give and take there. So just remember, it's not a one-way relationship. Don't complicate things too much. Focus on simplicity when designing.
Right.
Make sure everything's as easy as you can make it. An easy build saves time and saves supplies. And don't let Crystal's dad build you anything. Ever.
He overbuilds. Well, if he builds it for you,
It'll last 1,000 fucking years.
well, not only that, but it's got extra wood in it. But next would be plan every minute, and the planning saves dollars in the build. Bust out the CAD.
Yeah, use the software, like I said. This is important because, I mean, I know that before we got really decent, I wouldn't say good, but decent at planning our haunt, we wasted a lot of wood and time because we were not doing it right.
Yeah.
This is a big fix there. Get involved in the planning, invest in the plan, and if you're not building the haunt right now, now's the perfect time to start planning them. Get into it. It's a big deal. It will save you a lot of money and save you a lot of lumber. And also, don't blow your budget on lumber, please.
Yeah.
If you can't afford a build, change it. Basically, do something different. Go a different direction with it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, like, nobody's going to sit around and go, wow, he spent $1,000 on lumber in this haunt as they're going through your haunt. No, they're going to be thinking about how they're scared or how the lighting's cool or how they feel like they were taken somewhere else. If you can do it any other way, do it. Don't let yourself get hung up on you have to do something this exact way and blow all your money on buying lumber, which no one's going to appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah, and you want to be able to open next year. So if it's not doable this year, maybe it will be next year. Yeah.
Be creative. Find ways to do it. Now, we got to revisit the question of the week real fast. We're winding this down. We're already at 56 minutes in this. So, so question of the week. We had some great answers in the chat. Crystal, walk us through them.
Okay, Karen Page said a mobile tool cabinet.
That is sweet. As a dumpster.
That is.
Yeah, the question, by the way, was what's your favorite dumpster dive find? That is a sweet dumpster dive find.
Yeah, we will actually be getting rid of one of those soon.
Yeah, if you want ours, you can come get them.
Christian Wistow said 2 old aquariums.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've never seen aquariums curbside ever.
We've actually picked up one.
That's right. We did pick up one.
I picked up one but we decided not to use it in ours because I couldn't find a place to put it where customers wouldn't be near glass.
Yeah, we're too small, and that glass is breakable and fragile, so we chose not to use it. Yeah. And I think we gifted it to someone else, actually, because we have a friend that does a lot of fish stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was like a 40-gallon aquarium. It was a big fucking aquarium.
And it was really cool. It wasn't square. It was octangular.
Yeah,
so
it was the base. If I remember correctly, it was the base of something.
The base was wood and the top was glass.
Yeah. I remember.
So I had the idea that I wanted to turn it over so that somebody could come up underneath it and be in the water. But
with the glass, once again, the glass and the threat of shattered glass everywhere was just too much.
Too nerve-wracking, so we gave it away to a good home. And then Christine Campbell said favorites would be a gorgeous pink vintage couch. I am so jealous.
I am jealous of that find. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Found in a back alley, and a dead horse that a friend called to come get. I've been known to bring home the dead thing.
Okay, my question is though, have you beaten the dead horse yet? I mean, that seems like a thing you have to do.
Yeah.
If you haven't beaten the dead horse,
You definitely have.
Oh, yes,
So-
I have. I beat a dead horse every week on Hauntin' Weekly, and you can watch me beat a dead horse every week at hauntweekly.com, Hauntin' Weekly at Twitter, Hauntin' Weekly on Facebook, youtube.com/Hauntin' Weekly is our YouTube channel. All the previous episodes are there, easy access, great for streaming. And you can also find us at all the places you find your podcast, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher. And do check out hauntweeklystore.com. We have merch. We got bags. We got t-shirts. We got buttons and magnets. We got all kinds of cool Hauntin' Weekly related stuff for you to check out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of great ideas for how to build a haunt without spending too much on lumber, we hope.
Yes.
I still find it absolutely bananas. I'm telling people to get the metal studs and drywall because that's cheaper.
Yeah, well, I think the metal studs plus the metal roofing
Yeah.
would actually make pretty good walls. And
I
they
needed
would be
earplugs
fire,
just to think of the idea.
and I think that would be fire compliant.
Oh, yeah, it'd be fire code
because
compliant.
it's metal. I mean, metal.
And it's
has
solid
to reach
enough
out-
to
Yeah.
survive a hit. But yeah, still, I needed earplugs just thinking about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a great idea, no. But anyways, on that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Hope that you learned something. Hope that maybe one of these ideas was useful to you.
Mm-hmm.
We will see you all next. This has been Hauntin' Weekly episode 286, talking about novel haunt builds to avoid the lumber crunch. Hope you learned something, and we will see you all next week.